2021. We have a dear friend Irfan Khan, who is the co-founder of Hypermine, and we like to know about his journey. So, Irfan, welcome to our fireside chat.
Thank you,
Uh,
guys.
so, just wanting to understand, before you got into the blockchain space and before your Hypermine journey started,
Sure.
what were you doing? What was your journey like till then?
Yeah, sure. So I spent a lot of time within the identity space, uh, maybe like 7, 8 years. I've worked in major identity projects, primarily related to government. So
Okay.
national ID projects of countries like Oman, UAE, and even Iran to some extent. Um, I've always been interested in this space, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into the blockchain space, but at the same time maintain what I've carried forward. Because if you think about identity, um, it's human nature, right? It's something which um, has been part of human nature since the beginning of time. We relate
Mhm.
identity to uh, our possessions, my glasses, your jacket. You are known. Your things become you as an identity. And now that digitization is coming to everything, we have to look at online identity as well. And um, one of the most important things about identity is that as of today, identity is controlled by others. Your identity is either controlled by a government or by a big corporation. It's not controlled by you.
Mhm.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to get into the blockchain space with identity was essentially decentralizing and democratizing and bringing back identity to the people that actually own it.
All right, that's interesting. So yes,
Yeah,
exactly with all the identity thefts and how data breaches have been happening,
yeah,
and we've
yeah.
been
All this is
hearing.
happening because we don't control it.
Yeah, and I think so. It's a
You know,
very
and
important
and
thing.
and and if when you control something, it's yours. You take a lot more care of it.
Yeah,
And jo tumhara nahi hai, you don't care about it. You know what I mean? What's not
true.
yours, you don't. So when someone
Exactly.
else is holding on to your identity, they don't care about it. So
That that exactly, and that's how
yeah,
the misusing and everything
yeah,
starts
yeah,
happening. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So what made you? So besides looking at the identity thing, right? Well, so when you first heard about blockchain or Bitcoin or any of the crypto, this about the space, how what was the thing that made you think about it? This is where my identity solution, or this is what the identity industry actually requires or needs. So
Um,
what was that point that attracted you to coming into this?
I think it was in probably 2012 or 2013 or yeah, around 2012, around that time.
Mhm.
Um, I started I really got interested in Bitcoin.
Okay.
And I went and bought like some 20, 30 Bitcoins. And
Wow.
yeah, it was nothing back then, right?
I know.
You know what? It was
You're a
nothing back
billionaire
then.
today,
Yeah, well, अभी तो कुछ नहीं था, अभी तो like crazy
sitting
right
on
now.
a gold mine,
In
right?
fact, I even lost them. I stored them on an online wallet, and
Oh
CEO,
shit.
yeah, the CEO ran away with my. Anyway, that's not the point, right?
Oh shit.
So it was interesting for me because the whole experience of how I was able to buy those Bitcoins, right? That um, I would have, if you have to go and exchange currency today, you probably have to go and probably show your ID and go to a proper exchange center and give them the currency and they exchange rates, so on and so forth. But the whole cryptocurrency experience was so seamless that it got me to thinking, and the whole concept was that something so powerful that has value in case of Bitcoin has does not have a leader. It does not have a founder. It does not have a government. It is basically an orphan uh, piece of value that is destroying governments and destroying banks and destroying existing systems of society. You get it?
Yeah.
So what I thought is that we need to learn from that, right? That
Mhm.
if something so essential to humanity as money, okay, money is essentially a form of accounting between people, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about that, what Bitcoin has taught us, that don't fight the system, but build a new system in parallel that people can use, right? And that's what we want to do in Hypermine as well, that we don't want to fight the system. And that's the most interesting part, that if you build something in parallel and it works, people will use it. And you have to ensure that the people's interest and the users' interest are the primary concern. So that is what got me interested the most, that you are building something so powerful, and it it belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to just like one person or one entity or one government. So that is what really got me attracted to the whole thing, that we can have an actual democratic sort of community based governance system that actually allows anyone, and an inclusive system rather than exclusive system, right? So today, if the government refuses to give you an Aadhaar or a passport, and they can do that, right? There are certain people that don't get passports or don't get Aadhaar, you're pretty much lost. But
I think so. Governments will not say no to Aadhaar right now because that's your
but
first
yeah, but
identity.
you're only looking at India, right? There are so many countries there.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
there.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you think about it, okay, I'm talking about everyone, right?
yeah.
A country can refuse you a passport.
They agreed. They can. They
It's up to
can.
them to refuse you a passport, right? But the
That's
fact of the matter is, you're human, uh, and you need to have some form of identity. You get it?
true.
And if it's not just the people who are criminals who get refused this, right? I mean, think about refugees, right? I mean, it's not their fault. They don't have a country anymore. They don't have a government that get bombed. Think about the Syrians, and you think about all the Yemeni and these war-torn countries. Even they deserve to have identity, right?
Exactly. They do.
They
They
do,
do.
right? So
Yeah.
so that's the kind of thought process, that an inclusive system that is not governed by a central entity, that actually allows everyone to function in a way that helps society improve itself just with basic technology, right?
Mhm.
That's primarily the idea.
Very interesting. When you talk about identity and the importance of it, uh, I think so. Blockchain, yes, this is something that we really should be looking at it because there are quite a few torn countries with not a functioning
Yeah,
government.
yeah,
So it's something which is very much as a humanity as a whole should be looking at it.
sure,
That's
sure.
very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So talking about Hypermine, how exactly is the product working? What is the functioning and how it is going about? So we know it's solving identity right now, but what are
Yeah.
the aspects of it going?
So if you look at the identity business, right? You have these huge corporations running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and on the flip side, if you look at decentralized identity, which is what they call self-sovereign identity, um, there is no real customer for it. There's no government that's going to come and be like, okay, I'm going to buy this solution for you. There's no company that's going to come. So how do you approach a situation, this kind of situation, where you're building something, but there's no real need for it? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, or maybe there is a need for it, but no one's going to support you
Yeah,
to build this sort of thing. You get it?
true.
So and we had the discussion internally, right? That how are we going to ensure that there is adoption? How do we take it to market? How do we bring acceptance? How do we educate? So we sat and we basically did a research for about a year and a half, and we dug down into problems that um, regular guys and girls like you and me, and regular people and regular companies were facing.
Mm-hmm.
And it obviously came to me that, since I come from this background, that all organizations and people, they require some form of security as well as identity. So even if it's like accessing if you're an organization, and if you have internal applications, you need some form of identity, you need security, you need usernames, passwords to access those applications. You get it?
Mm-hmm.
So what we looked at is, what kind of problems are these people facing? I mean, what kind of problems is these companies facing? So one of the top and most uh, the weakest point, if you like, in any enterprise is the endpoint security. So basically, the weakest link in any organization is the username and password.
Okay.
You get it?
Yes, that's right.
You get it? So
Yeah.
the cost and the life cycle and the risk managed that go into managing passwords is pretty high. If you speak to any speak to any large corporation, 5,000 employees plus, call center help desk for the employees, they're going to tell you the top 3 calls that we get is for password reset.
All right. That's
Yeah,
true,
yeah,
actually.
and there's a cost attached to that. So each call in a call center has a cost attached to it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
managing a password is one of like the hottest problems that an enterprise can face, and in terms of risk as well, right? So this is the problem we set out to solve first. How do we solve the problem of the password? So what we did was we built a passwordless authentication solution.
Okay.
Because everyone's got to log in, right? Everyone has to log in somehow or the other.
True.
So
True.
we built a passwordless authentication system built on public key infrastructure that allows people to eliminate the need for username and passwords completely. And you will see this technology. It's coming in a big way. There's a lot of hype around it. Passwordless authentication is being used not just for people like you and me, but it's also being used in decentralized applications. It's also being used in hardware devices, in IoT. Um, Basically, all the autonomous devices that need to authenticate to a network. So autonomous driving cars that where you need to, I mean, it pays the toll by itself. It pays the gas by itself. They all
Yeah.
need to authenticate, So, and there's no one to really sit and put in a password. You get it?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
everything, it requires some sort of authentication mechanism to ensure that they are who they're saying they are. So we are basically using public key infrastructure to facilitate that and eliminate the whole concept of username passwords in between. So that is how we're actually addressing the market. We've identified a few more problems that we are solving, but I don't want to go into too much detail right now. But this is how we're going into the market.
Okay. Yeah, so that's actually very interesting, when you talk about passwords and all, because I, for matter of fact, 2 days back had to reset my password
Yeah,
because I
I
had
mean,
forgotten password.
it's getting crazy, right? So
Yeah.
first, it's got to be complicated enough that it's not hackable. It's got to
Mhm.
be easy enough that you remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then and from passwords, it's now become these phrases and passphrases, and from passphrases, it's now become multi-factor authentication, and then you have to like enter your mobile number and your email address, and this. So it's just getting more and more convoluted, right? It should become simpler. Tech is supposed to make life
True.
simpler,
True.
not more complicated.
Yeah, it just became too
Going in
complicated.
the opposite direction, right?
Exactly.
And and now, okay, fine. People are eliminating the whole concept of password by adding SMS, OTP, and all this Google, Facebook login. But the fact of the matter is that you have to give away your personal information each time you're logging in, right? You have to give away your phone number. You have to give away your email address. You have to give whatever. You have to give away a piece of information to be able to access that. The fact of the matter is, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. And that's what we're building. So with India's privacy bill coming in, GDPR coming in, people waking up. You saw the whole WhatsApp fiasco that's happening.
True. That's right. Yeah.
Um, so there has to be a way. This has to end at some point, right? So that's basically how we're looking at it, right?
Very interesting, how you say about the passwords and all. It is much needed, and even if we do have a common logging system or an OTP system, there has to be a much more seamless way, because that might just not work. My numbers might change, and then it becomes a task to change that number and everything.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. When did you start with Hypermine? So you got into the space in 2012, 2013, but when was it that you actually realized, that Hypermine is
So
something?
I decided that I really wanted to be part of this in 2016.
Okay.
In 2016, I think that's the same time you guys started as well, right?
Yeah.
I think that was that wave. I think the whole that whole blockchain space and decentralization space basically came into manifestation.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you can say it was around 2016.
All right, nice. So Hypermine is your first product, or you experimented with something else also before that?
Because we're okay. If you look at authentication, right? If you look at identity,
Mm-hmm.
anything and everything you want to do in your life, whether it's booking a ticket, whether it's paying money, whether it's accessing your email, you need identity.
True.
You need it. Okay, so whether it's email or whatever, right? So how we imagine this thing is that if we have identity as a base layer, okay, we can build whatever we want on it. So we are looking at payment systems, we are looking at workflow management, we are looking at healthcare, we are looking at a lot of use cases, but it's based on the identity layer.
Okay. All right. Well, I think so. I understood. So
You get
you've
it?
been building it. Yeah.
Yeah. So because we're providing the authentication, the security, and the identity. So if you look at the government now, there is an 18% tax coming on the crypto conversions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? That means you need to give your PAN card, which which basically means you need to provide some form of identity to be able to do the transaction. So that's the kind of thought process we have, that agar payment karna hai, so it has to be over identity. Your identity is involved. You want to book a ticket, your identity is involved. You want to access the airport, your identity is involved. So we are building even healthcare, doctors, all these clinics, everywhere you need identity. So whatever solutions we're building is basically different use cases involving identity.
All right. Okay. That's interesting. You last year won the Eternity Starfleet program, right?
Yeah,
You were one of the
yeah,
winners. So
yeah.
how's the experience with that entire incubation? What was there in for you? Uh,
Um, that's interesting you asked, because I think Eternity and the Starfleet program was one of the few acceleration programs that realized the importance of identity.
all right.
Okay, we applied to a lot of accelerators here in India, and um, I don't know. They probably we were communicating it incorrectly, or they were not
Mhm.
able to grasp the concept. And until today, I mean, we have a lot of discussions with venture capital who believe that um this is not a space they want to bet on. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So the very fact that they were able to understand that this is a critical area that is crucial to what is called digital transformation. Job sab taraf
Mhm.
dekh rahe ho abhi, it's happening everywhere.
Mhm.
um, and everyone needs identity. It has to be that way. So I personally found that, number one, they were quite switched on for what we're doing. They figured it out quickly.
Mhm.
They were extremely supportive in the sense that they helped us scale to a point where we were able to go and discuss with our customers and our potential clients about what we're doing and how we're doing. And they basically help us in ways that brought us to market ready, if you like.
Okay. All right. That's good. Yeah. So that
Yeah,
means overall the journey was good and you had a good
yeah, very
experience.
helpful.
And
Yeah, very helpful feedback.
that's great. Yeah. All entrepreneurs building a product require to figure those things out and make it market ready and
It's
all.
nice if you have help.
That's true. Any help at
Right.
any point of
Any help?
time,
Yeah,
anything is
yeah,
always good.
exactly.
So here have somebody who is mentioned, in our audience that Microsoft is launching its a passwordless, decided to go passwordless across. So how is your thing going to be different from that? So just trying
So
to.
okay, so firstly, everyone's going passwordless, right? So I think in
Mhm.
about 4 or 5 years there will be no more passwords. So uh, uh, if you think about Google, Microsoft, they're all getting into this space, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, Microsoft is a huge corporation. It's
It is.
it's a
It is.
centralized entity. तो
Yeah.
अभी अगर आप click करते हो, अभी log in with Google, log in with Facebook,
Hmm.
log in with Microsoft, right?
Hmm.
Um, so the fact of the matter is, you're still using your Google or Facebook or Microsoft credential to log in. They are also eliminating the concept of the username and password, but the fact of the matter remains that they will always be a centralized entity that is managing that.
Okay.
And we are bringing serious disruption in that space, in the sense that we want to decentralize that. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. That's nice. So basically, the major difference is that end of the day, centralization is somewhere, centralized entities is causing the problem. So decentralized entity will make it better because you will
it's
be
just
the end of
it's,
the
it's
day
just more
owning
it's
it.
just more accessible, right?
Yeah, and yeah, end of
Sure.
the day, you will be owning that
Yeah,
identity to yourself.
yeah.
That's interesting. So moving on to the next question in our discussion here, Irfan. Are you guys looking at any funding in the coming months, or have you been funded in the
um,
past? So
yeah,
how's
so of course we have received funding from Eternity Ventures in the past.
okay? That's nice.
Yeah, and they helped us out a lot. But we are heading very close to our token sale right now. So if any of you guys are interested in participating in our token sale, please do get in touch with me, and we'll figure something out for you guys.
That's nice. So, guys, anybody who's interested should really get in touch with Irfan or the team and figure out what the token is all about. Okay, so what about how did you choose the blockchain platform that right now Hypermine is based on? So, which
Uh,
one is it, and what was it your decision that you finally
okay.
decided to go
So
on to build on this?
let's dig into this a little bit, right?
Okay.
So if you look at what we are offering,
Hmm.
um, okay, it's a couple of things. Because Eternity paid us, of course, they are our default platform. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm not going to mince words around that. That's the fact, right?
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we are an identity, and we have to be present in an interoperable way. We have to be cross-chain. We have to be
Exactly.
accessible. So we are building on multiple platforms.
Okay.
That's the end goal. I think at some point we will probably migrate to our own chain.
Okay.
If you look at the 2013 to 2015 space, or even 2016, or even 2017, if you like,
Hmm.
you had all these blockchain companies coming up, right? So all the Stellars and the Moneros, and I mean, their primary use case was cryptocurrency, right?
Hmm.
Other than that, there was nothing much, right? So what we felt that, yeah, of course we can go ahead and launch our own chain, but what's the point in that? I think it's better we go the other way rather than build the chain and then figure out a use case. It's better figure out the use case and then build the chain. So
Interesting.
we first find the customers, we first find the use case, we first find the problems that we're going to solve, and
But
then we build a chain accordingly that will probably be interoperable with all the other.
all right, but why not look at one of the existing interoperable chains and utilize that?
We of course we don't have the resources right now to study each one of them and get into all of them.
Okay.
You get it. It's a
Sure.
bandwidth thing.
But,
It's a bandwidth
but you
thing.
also have that in.
It's my dream to go ahead and deploy on all that kind of thing.
And that'll be nice. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that'll be
Yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting to.
And most of the blockchains, they need an L2 identity layer anyway.
Okay, so yeah, that is something that you'll
Most
be
of them
requiring.
need it, so it's important for us to look at that. But at the end of the day, if anyone is looking for an identity layer on your network, please give us a call. I'm sure we can go
Figure out.
open to
Yes,
partnerships. Yeah.
that'll be nice. Just to talking about identity, last year Twitter got hacked, and they lost a couple of passwords and
Yeah.
accounts got
Sure.
hacked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how would your, if they were could be Hypermine be something that can help not having that thing, or is it something?
Yeah,
totally-
it's not just Twitter, right? It's everybody. So whether it's Netflix or whether it's so like I mentioned before, the password is the weakest point, and that could be to various reasons, because the password is the easiest thing to hack in the whole system, right? So all these brute force attacks and the rainbow attacks, and basically just someone's sharing a password and
Mhm.
sharing the SMS OTP and sharing, the just basically it's easier to get involved in that space. So if we had to eliminate the whole concept of a written piece of number or name,
Yeah.
you would drastically reduce the risk involved of these kind of attacks. And not just and the flip side is that, fine, there's two sides to it, right? That someone probably hacked your account and posted some dumb stuff, some lame, stupid post on your Instagram or your Twitter. But the
Uh-huh.
fact of the matter is that, on the flip side, the dark side is that when these companies get hacked, it's not just one account, right? It's like millions and millions of people's personal information is compromised. And then you find it on the dark web. I mean, I don't want to take names, but there are some big companies that happen to in India. So fine, I'll say it. Citibank and Big Basket and all these guys, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so I mean, you could eliminate all these problems just by saying, fine guys, okay, there's going to be no more username passwords. We're not going to accept this authentication. It's been around from the 60s, right?
Mhm.
From those days. So everything has been evolving, and I think even this space needs to evolve right now.
All right, very, very interesting. That is that. Just so in your entire journey since 2016, and I'm guessing after your research and everything, you started building in 17 or something. What has been the lowest and the high point in building Hypermind till now? So a low point and a high.
The lowest point, I think, was trying to explain trying to explain to people what we're doing. It became extremely frustrating because probably the Indian market is such that authentication is not top of the agenda, on top of the criteria of most. It's not in the budgets of most companies. You get it. You have these huge corporations that are buying this kind of security technology, but they're buying it from other big corporations, right? So there is no space for players like us. So it's extremely important that the local, smaller Indian startup community start looking at security tech and start looking at identity and access management systems. And that was the lowest part for us, because that our own people that we were talking to did not have the budgets, did not understand, and probably just were not concerned about it. They're like, yeah, it's okay, we'll probably just use some other form of username, password, database, Google login, and so on. You get it. So that was kind of sad for me, that you have these same companies in the US and Europe. Within the first year of operations, they have like multi-million-dollar contracts, just because people understand the urgency and the risk involved in not managing passwords correctly. So that was the lowest point. That was really the lowest point for us. But now I think what I really feel positive about is these things that are happening in India, like the privacy bill is coming soon. India Stack is doing some really cool stuff where I think India Stack will do for identity what UPI did for payment.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's an interesting time for us to be where we are, because we know that this thing is just going to explode. You get it? And I think we're positioned right at that cusp in about a year and a half, in a market where it's just getting into the space. You get it?
Yeah.
So it's exciting for me to be here at this time, and to be one of the pioneers in this space in India, to probably help my own country get out of this risk and hackable mindset that let's go hack the Indian guys. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, that's
so
very interesting.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
that's very
yeah,
interesting. Let's see. With privacy coming in and a lot of things happening, I
yeah.
think
It's gonna change. It's gonna
a
change. Yeah,
lot of things are going to change.
yeah.
Now, just something unrelated to privacy, since we are talking about the time things are going to change. What do you think so about 2021 going to be look like for the ecosystem to be growing? We saw a huge bump in
Um,
the rates in January with Bitcoin prices going up. We have seen quite a few of blockchain implementations
yeah.
happening. So, what do you think so is going to be 2021 going to be looking like for the ecosystem?
Um, I feel personally that at any time there is a crisis,
Mm-hmm.
uh, blockchain, well, not blockchain, but cryptocurrency specifically,
Mm-hmm.
will be a good investment in any crisis. In
All
any
right.
crisis, because it's not really controlled by anyone, because it's autonomous. People sort of have more faith in it, because at the end of the day, if a country collapses, their currency collapses, their
Exactly.
infrastructure collapses. But because there is no governance, there is no body which is actually ensuring the sustenance of these cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
It's an autonomous network. Chances of them flourishing are much higher,
Exactly. Makes
right?
sense.
And people wanna believe in that more. So that's why it's probably been skyrocketing, and that's probably one of the reasons why there is a crazy bull run, and I think it's going to continue at least for another 6 months. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the end of 2021, but for now I think it's going to remain this way.
That's great. All right. So finally, we have a couple of rapid fire questions for you.
Sure, yeah,
You
let's do
have
it.
no time to think about it. So
Oh, okay, fine, all right.
the first thing that comes in your mind, you need to answer. Okay. So your idol,
Sorry.
idol.
Idol.
Who do you idolize?
I don't know. I just think of Elon Musk right now, but okay.
Perfect. All right. Okay.
I don't know why he came by it right now, but yeah.
I guess we all do that.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
with everything going on, he's the first person
yeah,
that
yeah,
comes in
yeah.
your mind. Okay,
Sure.
the podcast or a blog that you follow to keep updated what's happening around.
Oh, I follow a lot of podcasts. I think a Value Walk. I don't know. I can't even remember them right now. There's one on one podcast on economics. I follow a lot. It was by the guys Freakonomics podcast. I follow them a lot.
All right,
Um, yeah, Value Walk is another nice one. But anyway, I can't remember right now.
okay, perfect. Not an issue. The influencers you follow in this space, in the blockchain.
The influencers I follow in this space. That's interesting, because I don't. I keep trying to think who. Okay, I mean, I get what Vitalik is doing. I know what the Tron guys are doing. I know what these guys are doing. But
You don't follow anyone.
yeah, I don't really follow anybody for that matter.
Well, that was an honest answer. You
Yeah,
never
I don't really care. You know what I mean?
All right, okay. So a decentralized exchange or a centralized exchange?
Uh, for cryptocurrency, decentralized. I mean, that is
That is the thing. And what
that
are
is.
you using currently? Is it a decentralized or a centralized one?
I don't trade.
You don't trade.
I
Okay,
don't trade.
okay. That was a smart one.
I don't
Oh,
trade.
that's nice.
Yeah.
And what about a book that you refer or community members to read? What book that you?
Wow, I've got a huge list, but
We can see a lot of books behind
yeah,
it,
I've,
but
I've got a
something
huge
that
list.
you think so everybody should go ahead and read.
I've got a huge list, but it depends. It depends on what your topic of interest is, right? So I'm reading a book. Honestly, right now, what I'm reading is a book on agoras. Okay, I
Okay.
I, I find that really interesting right now.
All right.
But um, you want to think about authors like who are basically talking about how the state of things to come. So what was his name who wrote, like, Noel Harari? Okay, I think he's one of my all-time favorite authors, and he's basically a historian and a futurist all in one. And his concepts are so clear about. I really like his books. So yeah, that's one of them.
That's nice. So Noval, who I see you're talking about is the
Yeah,
one.
Noel Harari. Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
All right, that's nice. And finally, a message for your community members or anything that you know you want
Um,
to share, or you're looking for something from the community. Please, like to.
be aware of your data. Protect it like gold. Uh, don't just give it away. If you're a company, think about how you are going to provide privacy for your users. This is going to be of paramount importance. Companies that don't consider the importance of privacy and the data security of the users will collapse for sure. And this is a fact, whether it's a government, whether it's a government enforcing policy, or whether it's just users being like, you know what, 500 million people, over 3 days, I think 4 days after WhatsApp announced its new privacy policy, moved out. Probably not moved out, but at least moved to the other chat programs, all the signals and all the telegrams and so on. So my honest request and recommendation to all you guys, whether you're a user, whether you're a company, whether uh, in whatever way you're involved, if you are managing other people's personal data, please treat it with respect. If you have your own data, please don't just give it away, and fight for your right to even basically not allow people to add you to groups, make registrations on your behalf. Just try to make a stand and make a statement that, this is my personal space, this is my identity. Don't abuse it, please.
All right. Thank you, Irfan, for such a enlightening conversation and
Anytime.
talking about identity and enlightening everybody about the privacy and what is there for all of us. Last, before we go, I really like your T-shirt, decentralize
Oh
everything.
yeah, sure, yeah.
Where can I get one if I
You,
own?
you gotta call me and I'll tell you where to get it from.
All right. Okay. Perfect. Anyone else who is looking at getting this T-shirt can get in touch with Irfan. We will be tagging him on the video, and you can then ping him for the T-shirt or to understand more about identity. All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you guys. Take care.
Thank
Have a
you.
good week.
Bye.
Bye.